Hi, and welcome to my channel. We are here for True Crime and Makeup Monday. I don't know why I said it that way. So veering from my usual content of just any old true crime case that I find interesting, for the month of June and Pride Month, I am going to be focusing more on crimes that involve the LGBT community. So essentially, people that were killed for being gay. Um, and we're going to start out with something that I think everybody who hasn't been living under a rock for the last 7 years or so has heard of, and that was the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting. So, as always, trigger warning, gun violence, crimes against others, graphic crime scenes, and talk of, obviously, death. That being said, let's get started. On June 12th, 2016, Omar Mateen, a 29-year-old man, killed 49 people and wounded 53 more in a mass shooting at Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando. Florida, United States. Orlando police officers shot and killed him after a 3-hour standoff. In a 911 call made shortly after the shooting began, Mateen swore allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and said the U.S. killings of Abu Wahib in Iraq the previous month triggered the shooting. He later told a negotiator he was out here right now because of the American-led interventions in Iraq and in Syria, and that the negotiator should tell the United States to stop the bombing. The incident was deemed a terrorist attack by FBI investigators. Pulse was hosting a Latin night, and most of the victims were Latino. It is the deadliest incident in the history of violence against LGBT people in the United States, surpassing the upstairs lounge arson attack in 1973. The deadliest terrorist attack in the United States since the September 11th attacks, and is second only to the 2017 Las Vegas shooting as the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history. On June 11th, 2016, Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida, was hosting Latin Night, a weekly Saturday night event drawing a primarily Latino crowd. RuPaul's Drag Race contestant and drag queen Kenya Michaels is recorded to have been performing right as the shooting began. Michaels survived the shooting. About 320 people were still inside the club, which was serving last call drinks around 2 a.m. on June 12th. At around the same time, Omar Mateen arrived at the club via rental van, parking it in the parking lot of a neighboring car shop. He got out and walked toward the building armed with a Sig Sauer MCX semi-automatic rifle and a 9mm Glock 17 semi-automatic pistol. He was wearing a green, blue, and white plaid dress shirt, a white t-shirt underneath, and tan cargo pants. At 2:02 a.m., Mateen bypassed Officer Adam Brewer, a uniformed off-duty Orlando Police Department officer working extra duty as a security guard, entered the building through its southern entrance, and began shooting patrons. Dozens were killed or severely injured inside the crowded nightclub, either directly or by ricochets. Grueller took cover and called in a signal for assistance. He told a post-incident police foundation assessment team that he had immediately recognized that his handgun would be severely disadvantaged against the rifle Mateen was using. When he witnessed Mateen shooting two patrons attempting to escape through an emergency exit, Grueller fired shots at him. In response, Mateen withdrew back into the nightclub and continued shooting victims as he traversed through the building, sometimes firing into bodies without checking whether they were already dead. When additional officers arrived, So there was backup. The nightclub beginning at 2:04 a.m. Gruller shouted, "The gunman's in the patio," and resumed firing at Mateen a minute later. Two officers joined Gruller in engaging Mateen, who then retreated further into the nightclub and began a hostage situation in one of the bathrooms. In less than 5 minutes, Mateen had fired approximately 200 rounds, pausing only to reload. During the shooting, some of the people trapped inside the club sought help by calling or sending text messages to friends and relatives. Initially, some of them thought the gunshots were crackers or part of the music. Imran Yusuf, a recently discharged Marine Corps veteran working as a nightclub bouncer, immediately recognized the sounds as gunfire. That's sad. I'm sorry, it's sad. Which he described as high caliber, and jumped over a locked door behind which dozens of people were hidden and paralyzed by fear. Then opened a latch door behind them, allowing approximately 70 people to escape. I mean, at least he helped some get out. I think that's the best situation. Some of them did get out. Many described a scene of panic and confusion caused by the loud music and darkness. One person shielded herself by hiding inside a bathroom and covering herself with bodies. Could you imagine doing that? Being there with these people, you don't know who they are, but you're there with people who are just like you in a way, and now you're using their bodies to shield you. That is horrible. That's sad. At least one patron tried to help those who were hit. A bartender said she took cover beneath a glass bar. According to a man trapped inside a bathroom with 15 other patrons, Mateen fired 16 times into the bathroom through the closed door, killing at least two and wounding several others. We haven't caused enough carnage here, so let's shoot through a closed door. Which, from what I understand, with a semi-automatic, it would not be hard to do. If that makes sense. I'm not sure it does. It would not be hard to shoot through a not sealed door. Sorry, I'm just trying to finish this eye look here. Because then we get to clean it up. According to one of the hostages, Mateen entered a bathroom in the nightclub's northwest side. Um, and opened fire on the people hiding there, wounding several. The hostage, who had taken cover inside a stall with others, was injured by 2 bullets and struck with flying pieces of a wall hit by stray bullets. Shortly after entering the women's restroom, Mateen's rifle jammed. He then discarded the rifle and switched to his Glock 17 pistol. Two survivors quoted Mateen as saying, "I don't have a problem with black people," and that he wouldn't stop his assault until America stopped bombing his country. Other survivors heard Mateen claim he had explosives as well as snipers stationed around the club. Patrons trapped inside called or texted 911 to warn of the possible presence of explosives. In the next 45 minutes, about 100 officers from the OPD and the Orange County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to the scene. Among the earliest first responders to arrive was a firefighter crew from Fire Station 5, and emergency medical services personnel from the Orlando Fire Department were deployed during the entire incident. At around 2:09 a.m., several minutes after the gunfire began, the club posted on its Facebook page, "Everyone get out of Pulse and keep running." At 2:22 a.m., Mateen placed a 911 call during which he mentioned the Boston Marathon bombers, Tamerlan and, I'm not going to say this right, Dzhokhar Sarsenev as his homeboys, and made a reference to Moner Mohammed Abu Salah, an American citizen who died in a suicide bombing in Syria in 2014. Mateen said he was inspired by Abu Salah's death for the al-Nusra Front, targeting Syrian government troops, a mutual enemy of the two Salafist groups, despite their history of violence with each other, and swore allegiance to ISIS leader al-Baghdadi. The FBI said that Mateen and Abu Salah had attended the same mosque and knew each other casually. Mateen made 2 other 911 calls during the shooting. Numerous 911 calls were made by the patrons inside the nightclub around this time. After the initial rounds of gunfire between Mateen and Gruller, 6 officers shot out a large glass window and followed the sound of shooting to the bathroom area. When Mateen stuck his head out from one of the bathrooms, at least 2 officers shot at him. After the gunfire stopped, they were ordered to hold position instead of storming the bathroom, according to one of the officers. After about 15 to 20 minutes, SWAT arrived and had the officers withdraw, as the officers were not really in tactical gear. And I get that they were trying to do this with like minimal loss of life, but at this point, you've already lost a lot of life. But I do commend them for protecting the local police as well as anybody who was still in with this man. They did what they could with what they had, and they didn't know what kind of weapons he had. They didn't know how dangerous he was. They weren't sure if what he said about others being involved or outside waiting for escapees or anything else was true. So they were going in blind, essentially. I get that that's bad, and we don't want that to happen. SWAT then took over the operation. When asked why the other officers didn't proceed to the bathroom and engage Mateen, Orlando Police Chief John Mina said it was because Mateen went from an active shooter to a barricaded gunman and had hostages. He also noted if he had continued shooting, our officers would have went in there. At that time, the last shot by Mateen was fired between 2:10 and 2:18 a.m. Um, Give me 1 second, y'all. I forgot to get something out. Rescues of people trapped inside the nightclub commenced and continued throughout the night. Because so many people were lying on the dance floor, one rescuing officer demanded if you're alive, raise your hand. By 2:35 a.m., police had managed to extract nearly all of the injured from the nightclub. Those who remained included the hostages held by Mateen in the bathroom, as well as a dozen people who were hiding inside dressing rooms. At 2:45 a.m., Mateen called News 13 of Orlando and said, "I'm the shooter. It's me. I am the shooter." He then said he was carrying out the shooting on the behalf of ISIS and began speaking rapidly in Arabic. Mateen also said the shooting was triggered by a U.S.-led bombing strike in Iraq that killed Abu Wahib, an ISIS military commander, on May 6th. A crisis negotiator was present as Mateen was held up inside and holding hostages. Officers initially believed he was armed with a suspicious device that posed a threat, but it was later revealed to be a battery that fell out of an exit sign or smoke detector. Police hostage negotiators spoke with Mateen by telephone 3 times between 2:48 a.m. and 3:27 a.m. He claimed during one of the calls that he had bombs strapped to his body. He also claimed that he had a vehicle in the parking lot. He had that he, quote, had a vehicle in the parking lot with enough explosives to take out city blocks, end quote. At 3:58 a.m., the OPD publicly announced the shooting and confirmed multiple injuries. At 4:21 a.m., 8 of the hostages escaped after police had removed an air conditioning unit from the exterior wall. At approximately 4:29 a.m., Mateen told negotiators that he planned to strap explosives vests similar to those used in the November 2015 Paris attacks to 4 hostages, strategically place them in different corners of the building, and detonate them in 15 minutes. OPD officers then decided to end negotiations and prepared to blow their way in. At around 2:30 a.m., Mateen's wife, after receiving a call from her mother at approximately 2 a.m., asking where her husband was, sent a text message to Mateen asking where he was. Mateen texted back asking her if she had seen the news. After she replied, no, Mateen responded with, I love you, babe. According to one source, she texted him back at one point saying that she loved him. She also called him several times during the standoff, but he did not answer. She found out about what was happening at 4 a.m. after the police told her to come out of her house with her hands up. From what I understood, the wife was not involved. I don't think she knew what he was planning to do. I don't think she was in on it. I think she was kind of blindsided by it. I don't know. But yeah, from what I understand, she was not aware that this was the end goal, that this is where he was going, and this is what he was going to do. So... a survivor of the shooting recalled Mateen saying he wanted the United States to stop bombing his home country. The FBI said Mateen told a negotiator to tell America to stop bombing Syria and Iraq, and that was why he was out here right now. During the siege, Mateen made internet searches on the shooting, while police dispatched a tactical robot to discreetly enter the restroom and allow them to communicate with hostages via two-way audio. The FBI reported that no shots were heard between the time Mateen stopped exchanging gunfire with the first responders. And 5:02 a.m., when Orlando police began breaching the building's wall. Just before the breach, Mateen entered a woman's bathroom where the hostages were hiding and opened fire, killing a man who sacrificed his life to save the woman behind him and at least one other, according to witnesses. At 5:07 a.m., 14 SWAT officers, after failing to blow open a big enough hole in the bathroom's exterior wall using a bomb due to the wall structure, successfully breached the building when a policeman drove a Bearcat armored vehicle through a wall in the northern bathroom. Essentially, they destroyed the nightclub to get these people out, and I mean, more power to them, because they tried. successfully breached the they then used two flashbangs to distract Mateen and shot at him. The breach drew Mateen out into the hallway, and at 5:14 a.m., he engaged the officers. He was shot 8 times and killed in the resulting shootout, which involved at least 11 officers who fired about 150 bullets. He was reported down at 5:17 a.m. Excuse me. At 5:05 a.m., the police said a bomb squad had set off a controlled explosion. At 5:53 a.m., the Orlando police posted on Twitter, Paul's shooting. The shooter inside the club is dead. 30 hostages were freed during the police operation. The survivors were searched by police for guns and explosives. Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, he did say he was going to strap explosives to 4 of the hostages. So I can't say that they were wrong for that. 50 people died in the incident, including Mateen, and another 58 were injured, 53 by gunfire and 5 by other causes. Some survivors were critically injured. 39, including Mateen, were pronounced dead at the scene, and 11 at local hospitals. Of the 38 victims to die at the scene, 20 died on the stage area and dance floor, 9 in the nightclub's northern bathroom, 4 in the southern bathroom, 3 on the stage, 1 at the front lobby, and 1 out on the patio. Give me a second. At least 5 of the dead were not killed during the initial volley of the gunfire by Mateen, but during the hostage situation in the bathroom. Pulse was hosting Latin Night. Over 90% of the victims were of Hispanic background, and half of those were of Puerto Rican descent. 4 Dominicans and 3 Mexican citizens were also among the dead. An off-duty United States Army Reserve captain at the club, who was not in uniform, was also killed. The attack is the second deadliest mass shooting by a single shooter in United States history, behind the 2017 Las Vegas shooting. Prior to the Las Vegas shooting, the Pulse shooting had been the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. It is also the deadliest incident of violence against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in the history of the United States, surpassing the 1973 upstairs lounge arson attack and the deadliest terrorist attack in the United States since the September 11th attacks in 2001. The names and ages of the victims killed were confirmed by the city of Orlando after their next of kin had been notified. Stanley Almodovar III, 23. Amanda Alvear, 25. Oscar A. Arcina Montero, 26. Rodolfo Ayala, 33. Alejandro Barrios Martinez, 21. Martin Benitez Torres, 33. Antonio D. Brown, 30. Daryl R. Burt II, 29. Jonathan A. Camoy Vega, 24. Angel L. Candelario Pedro, 28. Simon A. Carrillo Fernandez, 31. Juan Chavez Martinez, 25. Luis D. Conde, 39. Corey J. Connell, 21. Tevin E. Crosby, 25. Frankie J. De Jesus Velasquez, 50. Dianca D. Drayton, 32. Mercedes M. Flores, 26. Peter O. Gonzalez Cruz, 22. Juan R. Garrow, 22. Paul T. Henry, 41. Frank Hernandez, 27. Miguel A. Honorado, 30. Javier Jorge Reyes, 40. Jason B. Josephat, 19. Eddie J. Justice, 30. Anthony L. Loreno Diesla, 25. Christopher A. Leonin, 32. Brenda L. Marquez McCool, 49. Jean C. Mendez Perez, 35. Akira Monet Murray, 18. Kimberly Morris, 37. Jean C. Nieves Rodriguez, 27. Luis O. Acasio Capo, 20. Geraldo A. Ortiz Jimenez, 25. Eric Ivan Ortiz Riviera, 36. Joel Rayon Panigua, 32. Enrique El Rios Jr., 25. Juan P. Rivera I cannot say this today. Velquez, 37. Mary Rodriguez Sullivan, 24. Christopher J. Sanfelice, 24. Xavier Emmanuel Serrano Rosado, 35. Gilberto Ramon Sylvia Menendez, 25. Edward Sotomayor 24 Jr., 34. Shane E. Tomlinson, 33. Leroy Valentin Fernandez, 25. Luis S. Vielma, 22. Luis Daniel Wilson Leon, 37. And Gerald A. Wright, 31. Autopsies of the 49 dead were completed by the Orange County Medical Examiner's Office. By June 14th, and their results were released in early August. According to the autopsy reports, many of the victims were shot multiple times in the front or side and from a short distance. More than a third were shot in the head, and most had multiple bullet wounds and were likely shot more than 3 feet away. In total, there were over 200 gunshot wounds. Many of the injured underwent surgery. Most of them, 44 people, were taken to the Orlando Regional Medical Center, the primary regional trauma center 3 blocks away. 12 others went to Florida Hospital Orlando. 9 of ORMC's patients died there, and by June 14th, 27 remained hospitalized and 6 were in critical condition. ORMC performed surgeries on 76 patients. The last of the injured was discharged from ORMC on September 6th, nearly 3 months after the shooting. 3 Colombians and 2 Canadians were among the injured. Additionally, a responding SWAT officer received a minor head injury when a bullet hit his Kelvar helmet. The gunman was identified as 29-year-old Omar Mateen, an American born in New Hyde Park, New York. His parents were Afghan and he was raised Muslim. At the time of the shooting, he lived in an apartment complex in Fort Pierce, Florida, 117 miles from the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Mateen's body was buried in the Muslim cemetery of South Florida near Gila Gardens. From October 2006 until April 2007, Mateen trained to be a prison guard for the Florida Department of Corrections. As a probationary employee, he received an administrative termination not involving misconduct upon a warden's recommendation after Mateen joked about bringing a gun to school. Mateen unsuccessfully pursued a career in law enforcement, failing to become a Florida State Trooper in 2011 and to gain admission to a police academy in 2015. According to a police academy classmate, Mateen threatened to shoot his classmates at a cookout in 2007 after his hamburger touched pork in violation of Islamic dietary laws. Other witnesses said they saw Mateen drink alcohol and even get drunk. Which, if you don't know, you don't do in Muslim. You also aren't allowed to have tattoos. That's another big no-no. Another reason I say that is because I didn't know that until I looked into it. I did not know that. So yeah. At the time of the shooting, Mateen was married to his second wife and had a young son. He, despite numerous anonymous and named reports of LGBTQ connections, the FBI was unable to verify any claims that Mateen was homosexual or frequenting gay bars or even knew the Pulse nightclub was a gay bar. The FBI investigation found the witnesses claiming Mateen's homosexuality were mistaken or refused to go on the record and doubts that Mateen was gay. Law enforcement sources said the FBI found no photographs, text messages, smartphone apps, pornography, or cell tower location data to suggest Mateen lived a gay life, closeted or otherwise. On the day of the shooting, Mateen's father said that he had seen his son get angry after seeing a gay couple kiss in front of his family at the Bayside Marketplace in Miami months prior to the shooting, which he suggested might have been a motivating factor. Mateen's father said he did not believe his son was homosexual. Mateen's ex-wife, however, claimed that his father called him gay while in her presence. Speaking on her behalf, her current fiancé said that she, his family, and others believed he was gay, and that the FBI asked her not to tell this to the American media. During his wife's trial in March 2018, her defense revealed in a motion that Mateen had Googled downtown Orlando nightclubs and after passing Disney Springs, traveled between Pulse and the Eve Orlando nightclub before choosing to target Pulse. Cell phone records indicate that the final selection of the Pulse appears to have been made based on the lack of security, not because it was a gay club. Trial witnesses said the decision to target Pulse was made at the last minute, and the defense's motion argued that this strongly suggests that the attack on Pulse was not a result of a prior plan to attack a gay nightclub. Security camera video footage was recovered from the nightclub as part of the investigation, with the censored version later publicly released during the trial of Mateen's wife. Facebook activated its safety check feature in the Orlando area following the shooting, allowing users to mark themselves as safe to notify family and friends, the first use of the feature in the United States. Following the shooting, many business venues in the United States, such as shopping malls, movie theaters, bars, and concert halls, re-examined their security procedures. Also, police forces across the country announced plans to increase security at LGBT landmarks such as the Stonewall Inn and at Pride Month events, including Pride parades. 2 former SWAT members, one an active shooter tactics expert and trainer, expressed misgivings about the 3-hour delay in breaching the nightclub. Citing the lesson learned from the other mass shootings that officers can minimize casualties only by entering a shooting location expeditiously, even if it means putting themselves at great risk. Sadiq Mateen released a Dari language video statement via Facebook on June 13th to speak about his son's actions. A June 13th broadcast from the Iraqi ISIS radio station Al Bayan said Mateen was one of the soldiers of the Salafate in America without indicating any foreknowledge of the shooting. On September 10th, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services filed G4S Secure Solutions $151,400 for providing inaccurate psychological testing information on more than 1,500 forms over a 10-year period, which allowed employees to carry firearms. Mateen's form was among those investigated. On November 4th, it was reported that the Orlando Police Department was upgrading its equipment for officers following the shooting, since officers at the nightclub were not well equipped for the events and therefore endangered. The upgraded equipment included ballistic helmets and heavier ballistic vests. Following the shooting and a vehicle ramming attack and mass stabbing at Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, a new federal initiative was launched, partially in response to at least one victim bleeding to death inside Pulse during the situation. The initiative was designed to train people working at schools and other public places on how to treat injuries before paramedics arrive at the scene. Doctors have emphasized the importance for school faculty members to stay calm and assess injuries, but also discourage the use of more invasive emergency procedures, such as removing the bullet themselves. A Victims Assistance Center, Orlando Family Assistance Center, was opened on June 15th inside Camping World Stadium by the city of Orlando. During the 8 days it was open, it provided help to 956 people from 298 families. Those remaining were then directed to the newly opened Orlando United Assistance Center, jointly set up by the city and Orange County, which, according to the mayor of Orlando, will stay open as long as there is a need. The two hospitals that treated Pulse victims, Orlando Regional Medical Center and Florida Hospital, announced in late August that they will not be billing the survivors or pursuing reimbursement. The city of Orlando offered free plots and funeral services at the city-owned Greenwood Cemetery for those killed in the shooting. Equality Florida, the state's largest LGBT rights group, started a fundraising page to aid the victims and their families, raising $767,000 in the first 9 hours. As of September 22nd, 2016, they have raised over $7.85 million online, a record for GoFundMe, with over 119,400 donors at an average of about $66 per donation. Another fundraising campaign, One Orlando, was established by Mayor Buddy Dyer. The Walt Disney Company and NBC Universal, which operate the nearby Walt Disney World Resort and Universal Orlando Resort, respectively, each donated $1 million to the fund. As of August 12th, One Orlando has raised $23 million. Disney continues to offer a moment of silence on the anniversary of the incident. On August 11th, its board of directors decided that the funds will only be dispersed to the families of the dead, survivors who were hospitalized, survivors who sought outpatient medical treatment, and those who were present in the club when the shootings began but not physically injured, suffering mental distress. And that family members and survivors can start filing claims until the September 12th deadline. As of December 1st, One Orlando paid out over $27.4 million to 299 recipients, according to officials, with 6 more claims with an additional $2.1 million still being contested among family members of the slain victims. A total of 603 calls to 911 were made by victims, family members, and friends of victims, bystanders, and rescue workers during the entire shooting. On June 14th, 24 news agencies sent a 4-page letter to Orlando City attorney jointly demanding the release of recordings that 911 callers made on the night of the shooting. The letter also contained a request for scanner and dispatch recordings. The Orlando police refused to release the recordings, citing an ongoing investigation. On July 14th, the University of Central Florida Police Department released 9 body camera videos of UCFPD officers who rushed to Pulse to help Orlando police officers during the incident. On July 18th, the city of Orlando released a detailed 71-page document of OPD officers' accounts and responses to the shooting. On July 20th, the Orange County Sheriff's Office released a video footage from a body camera worn by one of its deputies during the incident. On July 26th, the Orange County Fire Rescue released a recording of a 911 call made during the shooting. On July 29th, the OCSO released dozens of pages of documents detailing the deputies' individual accounts of their involvement in the shooting. On August 30th, the OCSO released the 911 calls it received during the shooting. 2 days later, OPD in the city of Orlando released 9 of their hundreds of 911 calls, which were all made by friends and relatives outside of Pulse during the incident. The rest are locked in legal dispute between 24 media groups, OPD, and the city of Orlando. On September 14th, the city of Orlando released 23 additional 911 calls made during the shooting. These included calls made from rescue workers advising preparedness for dozens of victims, a patron who escaped from Pulse with a friend who was shot, and the brother of a woman who was shot several times and trapped inside a bathroom in the nightclub. On October 31st, the city of Orlando released nearly 30 minutes of recordings of police negotiators talking with Batil during the course of the shooting after a judge with the 9th Judicial Circuit Court of Florida ruled that these calls should be made public. A total of 232 other calls are still being withheld by the city. On November 10th, the Orange County Sheriff's Office released about 24 videos of body camera footage of officers at the perimeter of the nightclub during the shooting. The footage, which was heavily censored, depicted officers conducting searches of bathrooms in the nightclub and tending to survivors. On November 14th, the city of Orlando released 36 police audio recordings made during the shooting, which record officers' attempts to contact Mateen, their remarks on his serious, unruffled attitude, and their conversations about how to respond to the hostage situation. Also released that day was an additional 911 call made by a woman who made it out of the nightclub with her sister who was shot. The next day, on November 15th, 21 additional 911 calls were released. This was followed by 3 additional hours of 911 calls released on November 16th. And many of these calls, people trapped inside bathrooms, kitchens, and an upstairs office were questioning why police had yet to enter the nightclub. 2 days later, on November 18th, 107 pages of transcripts of more than 30 911 calls were released. These calls were made during the first 10 minutes of the shooting and had to be released in the form of transcripts after a judge deemed them too graphic to be released as audio recordings. According to a city spokesman, all 911 calls made during the shooting have now been released to the public. On September 14th, 2016, the city of Orlando announced it would pay $4,518 to erect a new fence around the Pulse nightclub on September 19th. The fence will feature a commemorative screen wrap with local artwork that would serve as a memorial to the victims and survivors of the shooting. It would also be smaller than the nightclub's previous fence in order to allow for more efficient navigation by passerby. On November 8th, the city of Orlando announced its plans to purchase the Pulse nightclub later that month for $2.25 million and turn the site into a memorial for the victims and survivors of the shooting. The announcement was met with praise from Orlando's LGBT community. However, the vote was postponed on November 15th, with the city explaining that more time was needed to plan a future memorial and that there was some discomfort from city officials over having to pay such a high amount of money. The vote was expected to be held on or before December 5th. In December 2016, the owner declined to sell the nightclub to the city due to emotional attachment. The owner then created the One Pulse Foundation and in May 2017 announced plans for a memorial site and museum slated to open in 2022. And that is the sad and unfortunate story of what happened at the Orlando Pulse nightclub. I do fully plan to continue doing LGBT only for the month of June. I think it's important that this time being our time as an openly gay woman to call attention to the things that happen that we may not see or we may not want to see. So hopefully you're all on board, and I will see you next Monday. Bye.